Good to go.
Great. Okay, so as I said, I'm Jo Kemp, the Program Manager for the program, and welcome to the Portland community surrounding townships that have jumped on the line today. As I said, it's great to see representation from other communities that identify as connected to Portland, and we're really inviting communities to self-identify in the way that they that they connect together as a community. Also lovely to see some of our regional organisations on the line too, Southwest Community Foundation, Beyond the Bell, Leadership Great South Coast. Thank you for your interest. It's great to have you along to learn about the program and the opportunity for the Portland community. So just to start us off, I'd love to make an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the Gunditj Mara, the Jardwajali and the Boandik peoples as the traditional owners of the region where you are today, and the Wurundjeri people of Central Victoria where I am, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And just incredibly grateful for the ongoing care of country that we get to live, work and play, and you know, for many thousands of years and into the future. It's a real honour to be based in this area. So today, what we'll cover, a little bit about FRRR for those of you that may not be so familiar with us. Some of you I know have received grants from FRRR, so you'll know it's in that context, but our work is also a little bit broader than that. We'll talk about the origin of the Investing in Rural Community Futures program and the elements that bring it all together and create the opportunity that we have for Victoria. We'll also talk about the learnings from some of our New South Wales communities. Victoria's in the really fortunate situation of we can leverage the learnings of 5 years of working with partner communities in New South Wales. So we're really excited to pull together all that learning and bring the program to 3 communities in Victoria. And we'll talk about next steps for the program, and there'll be plenty of time for questions. So we'll hold them till the end, but yeah, I think we'll have a good 15 minutes to do that. So a little bit about FRRR, the only national foundation specifically focusing on ensuring the social and economic strength in remote, rural and regional areas of Australia. And we align government, philanthropic and community purposes and investment. So we've been around since 2000. We'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary next year. FRRR was a result of a collaboration between the federal government and the Sydney Maya Fund. And really about helping resources and funding get to rural, regional and remote communities in all parts of the country. So FRRR has a very broad national footprint, and we're really proud of being able to support funding into all corners of the country, and particularly some very remote communities. We have a very supportive board, which is chaired by Tim Fairfax, and it's great to have sort of the leadership of that board to guide the organisation. We are known particularly as a grant-making organisation, and since 2000, there's been 177 million invested into more than 14,000 projects. Be a little bit more than that now. That's the previous financial year's figures, but in that 2022-2023 financial year alone, there was about 22.5 million invested across over 1,100 projects. So our intention is to provide really targeted, well-informed investment in people and organisations. So not only in terms of grant making and providing fundings for projects and activities and such, we also play a really important role in capacity building alongside communities, partnering with communities, and also from an advocacy perspective in the broader sort of landscape to support and, you know, to advocate for rural and regional communities and the things that are going on in our communities. And very much our philosophy is that local leaders are the best place to know what they need to achieve positive impact in their community. So a really large part of our job is just listening and learning from you about how we can best support outcomes for your communities. The way we divide our work is across 4 streams. And I guess I should mention that our vision is for a vibrant, resilient and revitalised remote, rural and regional Australia. So we divide our work across 4 streams: people, place, disaster resilience and climate solutions. The people area is where the Investing in Rural Community Futures program sits. It's about investing in the power of people to drive prosperity, ensuring equity and inclusion and opportunity, and above all, well-being of rural and regional communities. And the next one is around place and supporting resilience and cultural vibrancy in smaller and more remote communities. And as I said, we've got a really broad footprint into Western Australia and Northern Territory and all over the country. FRRR is also very lucky to have a really broad remit in terms of our tax status and ability to support a range of activities from environment and health and well-being and social connectedness, and as well as economic sustainability, which makes us quite unique in the funding landscape. And we like to think that we hold a pretty special place for rural and regional communities. The third one is around disaster resilience. So acknowledging that climate change and natural disasters are one of the biggest threats to the sustainability and viability of rural, regional and remote Australia, and that solutions are held in local knowledge and the intersections of those areas around people and place. So FRRR partners with communities before, during and after disasters, but particularly in that medium to long-term place of recovery, and also supporting disaster preparedness to be ready for potentially future shocks or things that might come our way. And finally, around climate solutions. So this is our newest sort of portfolio of work, but what we have heard loud and clear from communities is that it's really important for communities to be able to advocate and strengthen local climate solutions in their area. So that's, I guess, a nice snapshot of how we see our work and our role. So let's get into the Investing in Rural Community Futures program. We call it IRCF for short because FRRR loves an acronym. It's probably not the one that rolls off the tongue very well, but here we are. So back in 2017, we had an impact study that showed there was very much unmet demand for not-for-profit organisational capacity building. We were fortunate around that time to have a great relationship with the Vincent Fairfax Family Foundation, and we came together in a partnership and a desire to work in a place-based capacity approach to strengthen people essentially in rural New South Wales. So that's where the concept of the IRCF program was born, and further confirmed sort of our approach when FRRR conducted another really broad survey in 2021 called the Heartbeat of Australia study. All these things are on our website if you're interested, but that really reinforced the pressure on not-for-profits and the persistent gap in capacity building and a real desire to change that for the better of communities. So over the last 5 years, the IRCF program has come into being. We've been fortunate to work with 8 communities in New South Wales. Initially, our partnership with the Vincent Fairfax Family Foundation supported the first 3, which was Junee, Leeton and the Nambucca Valley. And then we were lucky enough to have other partners and donor partners join us to bring more communities into the program. And the key things that it was clear from the outset that were going to be really important for IRCF to be impactful was to ensure that collaboration was at the centre. So fostering collaboration between not-for-profit organisations to create sector efficiencies and increase capacity for community-wide advocacy. So that was the first one. The second one was around flexibility, knowing that the program needed to be flexible to respond to communities' throughout the journey. Some of our partner communities have experienced, well, all of them have experienced COVID, but in addition to that, bushfires, floods, and other sort of really overwhelming disasters, and programs been able to move and respond with those communities as they navigate those things. Was also a key element of the program is around a community roadmap. So coming together at the outset, broadly inviting the community together to think about what the priorities, opportunities and possible gaps are over the next 3 to 5 years that the program could really support. Thirdly, the activation of local connections and support. So that seeking a mechanism to build relationships, to be able to drive a community-led approach, to be able to activate the vital support of not-for-profit organisations. So that's where the concept of a community facilitator emerged. And we'll talk more about that role a little later on. But that's a local person based in the community, engaged usually by FRRR, to be a mentor, coach, connector role within the community. And finally, the value of evaluating and learning from the program as it evolves and meets the needs of individual communities. So measuring community and not-for-profit change over time and really being able to share those learnings with other communities and adapt the program for the future. So in the Victorian context, we're very excited to be working with 4 donor partners that have come together in a collaborative partnership. So $5 million over 5 years to support the program in 3 Victorian communities. So those foundations are the Jack Brockhoff Foundation, the William Buckland Foundation, Helen McPherson Smith Trust, and the Ross Trust. So it's a really unique partnership of funders, and super excited that they have come on board for a 5-year period, which I'm sure many of you are fundraisers and understand that, to get that level of support over that period of time is pretty special. So all very committed to Victorian communities, and we're excited to be moving forward with the program with them alongside. So the theory of change. This is the thinking and reasoning behind the approach that we've developed and has become the IRCF program. It is the nitty-gritty and getting into the weeds, but I think it's useful to understand the context. So the theory of change to build strong, collaborative, resilient and sustainable rural, regional and remote communities by providing flexible support and funding to local not-for-profit organisations that allows them to advocate effectively. So why do we do this? Because rural, regional and remote not-for-profit organisations need more time, resources and funding to reach their full potential. So by providing funding and interventions dedicated to strengthening along 4 themes, so systems, efficiencies, strategies and people, and I'll break that down further in a minute. But by providing funding for those elements, it supports collaboration and high-functioning not-for-profit organisations to be more resilient and prepared for the future, leading to stronger, more resilient rural, regional and remote not-for-profit and local community sector fulfilling its mission with greater impact. And ultimately, our aim is for a higher functioning, more viable, sustainable not-for-profit sector across rural and regional communities in general. So if that's the context and the thinking and the reasoning behind it, this is what it's translated to in terms of the key elements for the program. And what we've really noticed from our 8 partner communities is that these things together make the program what it is, and it's really to get the most value out of the program for communities, going on the entire journey and getting involved with each of these elements is, it has the greatest potential for your community to have positive impact from the program. So the first element is the community facilitator, which I mentioned earlier. So they have really, they're one of the pieces of gold of the program, being able to invest in a local person in the community to be at the role of a trusted and neutral resource to coach and mentor and facilitate collaborative conversations and be a conduit between the community and FRRR has been so valuable. And we'll hear some of the voices of some community facilitators a little later, but generally that person is contracted to FRRR, and that's the way that we support and resource them to be that facilitator role. The second thing is the community roadmap. So that's a co-design, very participatory process that at the beginning of the program, we invite broadly the not-for-profit sector to be involved with and really consider and set goals and priorities to guide and inform the program over the 5-year journey. And that's something that starts at the outset and then is revisited on an annual basis because, of course, things will change, evolve, and can tweak that roadmap, and it becomes a really important community asset over the life of the program and beyond as well. The program really seeks to support small to medium, locally based grassroots not-for-profits. Those are the organisations that have the potential to get the most out of the program. And in terms of the quantum of funding available, we certainly see larger organisations and regionally based not-for-profits. Oh, you lost me?
We did for a second.
Am I back?
You're back now.
All right. So I think I was talking about collaboration. I was talking about, small to medium-sized not-for-profits is really the sweet spot and the target group for the program. The next one is around collaboration, and that being really key and wanting to encourage and support collaboration throughout the 5 years and really building trust, which sometimes takes unlearning competitive practices. I imagine that many of you have a focus on fundraising, and that can often create competition, and hopefully a program like IRCF and all the elements that involves helps to reduce the competition and provide an environment for some collaboration across a range of activities, and the resourcing that is available through the program can support that. So it's really around supporting structured conversations and shared learning. So the funding, of course, is always interesting to all organisations, but and there's about $600,000 available per community for both organisational, so individual organisational grants, as well as broader sector capacity building activities and collaborative activity. So we divide the resources available into kind of, I guess, 2 themes of grants around particularly for individual organisations, which we call partnership grants, as well as toolbox grants, which are intended for broader collaborative activity. A digital hub is an important element, and that's evolved to be a section of the FRRR website dedicated to the IRCF program, where any resources, all the community roadmaps are stored so that they're easily accessible to anyone to jump on there to have a look. So there's lots of great information, and you're welcome to have a look at those things for our New South Wales communities anytime you like to jump on and see what's been happening in those communities. And of course, the final thing around ongoing evaluation, which from our perspective is first and foremost to support our community partners to help inform next steps and learning for your community, as well as for FRRR to be able to better advocate and share learnings with philanthropy and government and so on. We are in the process of identifying our evaluation partner for the Victorian iteration of the program. So there's a few things to be determined around exactly what the evaluation will look like and how we will engage our community partners in the evaluation. But there's certainly an expectation of the communities that we work with to get involved in that process. It might be things like one-on-one interviews. It could be a self-assessment survey to track, the progress of an organisation over time. There may be some community workshops and such to share learnings about, where your community is at and where it's going. The community facilitator is also a great resource to provide information back through the evaluation. So the intention is very clearly for it to be accessible and to not be a burden, but to add value to the program and your experience of the program. So I feel like we're breaking down levels. We're sort of peeling back the onion here. So these are the 4 pillars of capacity building that is really woven into the design and the way we talk and engage with communities. And they guide the way that funds are distributed, they guide the evaluation and the learning process. So these 4 pillars become common language for engaging across the program, across grants, activities, workshops, and so on. So the first one is around people. So really around all the things that help build the capacity of people within an organisation to make for a really strong and capable and resilient organisation. So developing leadership capabilities, might be around volunteer recruitment and training, might be around mentoring. So anything that's related to the people that are the lifeblood of your organisation. The second one's around efficiencies, and that's really that sort of collaborative piece about fostering relationships and practices that support, really effective collaboration across the not-for-profit sector. Might involve collective impact training. It might involve peer-to-peer mentoring, networking and shared platforms, and so on. The third one is around systems and supporting community leaders to gain insights and energy by sharing knowledge and systems and structures that demonstrate best practice. It might be around financial management, board skills, IT, HR, could be a range of things there. And finally, strategy. So tools and measures that support and enable the sustainability of organisations into the future. It might be resourcing for strategic planning and monitoring, or a revenue strategy. So those elements will become familiar for the communities that progress into the program. A little bit of learning about our experience in New South Wales, and then I'm going to have a little break from talking and share a video with you. So as I mentioned, we've had the opportunity to work with 8 communities. Over the period of time, over 5 years, there's been over $4 million invested in those communities across 85 not-for-profit organisations and 145 projects funded. And we talk about, throughout involvement in the program and as a result strengthening organisations and their capacity and capabilities, often we see that enables them to access different fundraising pathways and opportunities for funding. And so we talk about funds leveraged on the back of the program. And in New South Wales, we've seen over $8 million leveraged in addition to the funding that's been provided by FRRR. The other one I think is really important and interesting, and because it's a big number, is the number of people that have been employed through the IRCF program, and the resources available through the program it has been 127. I think this really talks to that notion of paying what it takes, that movement of advocating to invest in people to drive action and create change and really build partnerships and get processes right. And also, acknowledges that many of our really important not-for-profit organisations are volunteer-led and sometimes very strained and fatigued, and having the ability to resource, for example, a coordinator to get a whole range of systems and things in place can be really game-changing for an organisation to kind of take the next step. So Yeah, those are some of the sort of key facts and figures. But in terms of other learnings around time, we're really aware that progress happens at the pace of the community, and that each community is unique, and that flexibility is really important to allow the conditions for long-term change and to grow and respond to emerging challenges and issues. So the 5-year commitment, we think, is a minimum amount of time, and the investment of resources in this approach is really optimal to allow that progress to happen over time. And the next one being around trust, and that it takes trust and practice to sometimes unlearn those competitive mindsets that we talk about, but that that local leaders are keen to collaborate and network, but are often time poor, and the support of a neutral facilitator in the community facilitator that we talked about is really vital to establish trust in building new connections and pathways and practices, and encouraging conversations that may not necessarily happen without them being there to create the momentum. So building trust really starts at the outset of the program, and is so vital in ensuring diverse representation that can create a whole range of collaborations going forwards. And finally, tenacity. So understanding the broader ecosystem and the economic context and external stakeholders that can support longevity of the outcomes of the program can help to establish clear pathways for future funding and resources that are really vital for sustainability. So developing a strong relationship across some of those bigger stakeholders, local councils, regional organisations, and the not-for-profit sector can be really important in future options for the sector beyond the life of the program. So ensuring that those pathways are built over the 5 years of the program is something that we're very, very mindful of. So I would like to share a video, and hopefully my sound and everything is going to be okay. Having a few internet issues this morning. So let's see how we go.
The highlight of the IRCF funding was to get us literally into this century. Prior to that funding, we couldn't afford all the IT that we now have. Everything was done on my computer and the treasurer's computer. We now have that. We have point of sale for our sales. We know exactly what's sold. At the end of each week, we know where we're up to financially there. But on top of that, we've also met with other not-for-profits in town, and we're sharing things, and we're learning more about each other. It really has brought the community together.
I think IRCF should be delivered in many communities, because I think so many rural community organisations struggle with governance. They struggle with even legalities of what committee roles hold. I also think it's an important feature to be able to bring communities together and achieve similar goals without wearing out multitudes of volunteers. So shared resources is a huge thing.
The grant funded a coordinator for the Leeton Business Chamber. It's really allowed us to mature as an organisation. And I think it really helped with collaborating, like embedding ourselves into the community, being identifiable, who we are, what we do. And I think it really helped us. We found a place in collaborating with industry and not-for-profits, bringing them together and forming relationships through events and other opportunities that we were able to create because we had more people on board.
Okay. Back on track. So I just wanted to share with you that we've recently released a report from the 3 VFFF communities. So that's Junee, Leeton and Nambucca. They were the first cabs off the rank and the first ones to complete their 5-year journey. So if you're interested in diving deeper into what's happened in those communities, there's examples of the funded projects. There's some great case studies. There's learnings from the pilot program. capacity building outcomes and so on. So that's all available on our website there. I wanted to, I guess, talk a little bit about Junee, just as an example to kind of place some of the things that we've been talking about to bring some context. So Junee, the program was running for 5 years. 11 organisations were involved, and there was about $800,000 of funding over that period of time across 26 projects. So Junee is a town of about 6,500 people, and their early community roadmap priorities at the outset of the program, some of the things that were identified by the community, and these are just some. There were lots more, and you can view their community roadmap on the website. But in terms of the people stream, their priority was around volunteer training and skills, and particularly bringing young people along on that journey. In terms of the efficiency stream and collaboration, it was around increased support between agencies to share and really leverage resources across organisations. From a systems and structures perspective, it was around the acknowledgement that they didn't have a community hub that could service a range of activities for their community. So that was a priority to investigate whether that was an option to support things around shared training, resource sharing, and so on. And the fourth one, in terms of the strategy theme, was around creating more environmentally efficient not-for-profits. So over the period of time, the Junee Community Centre is quite a backbone organisation for that community. So we would call it like a lead organisation that is responsible, is quite connected to other organisations. And I'll talk about their journey, but on the next slide a little bit. So back in the beginning of the program in 2019, they were identified as an organisation that potentially could support a community hub or help activate a community hub. But to do that, they really had to focus internally on their organisation on a few things. And so at the outset, they developed a fundraising strategy. And as part of that, it led to being able to activate an NDIS service, an income stream, which is a real game changer for their organisation and kind of set them up quite nicely for the future in a different way. Then in 2021, they received some funding as a subsidy for the centre manager. So it was a recognition that the centre manager was so caught up in the day-to-day operations of the daily tasks of running the organisation that they didn't have the time and the energy to focus on things around compliance and reputation and sustainability. So a subsidy for somebody else to come in and take on that role, allowing the centre manager to step aside and focus on that and on some of those elements was really, really important and impactful for them. The following year allowed them to think more broadly around a financial sustainability plan to really strengthen the organisation going forwards, and also start scoping and doing an exploration for the potential of a community hub in and around the Junee Community Centre. In 2023, there was funds to conduct a feasibility study of the physical hub for groups and organisations and service providers to meet. And really happy to let you know that feasibility study has come up trumps and demonstrated that is a viable option for their community. So now they're in a great position to be able to really advocate and seek additional funding to bring that vision to life. They also received funding for a community development officer role. So that was really mindful of being able to, a person being able to help drive some of the program efforts in an ongoing way and beyond the life of the IRCF program. So you can see some of these later grants and resources were really around activating community ideas. The earlier initiatives were supporting organisational capacity to strengthen them as an individual organisation, and then allowed them to sort of broaden their focus to support more community collaborative activity. In 2024, there was also funding to support professional development. So a cohort of people to attend a couple of different conferences outside of Junee, to be able to travel to those, to really benefit from the learnings by being involved in those events like the Art of Hosting training and Social Impact in the Regions conference. So overall, the experience of Junee Community Centre was that the organisations was strengthened to advocate not only for their organisation, but more broadly the community. And one of the outcomes that they talk about was enabled them to really lobby the Commonwealth Bank to retain their only branch in town, which was due to close in 2023. So the advocacy that they were able to lead on that front served to achieved a really great positive outcome for their community. If we look at another theme that we talked about that came out of their community plan, which was around more environmentally efficient not-for-profits. So Junee Community Power, another organisation, over the life of the program, received about $87,000 towards this goal of environmentally efficient not-for-profits. So the IRCF program helped them to refine their processes, clarify their vision and business model, and it built their capacity to support their community through the renewable energy transition. In 2020, they received what we call a partnership grant, so a grant for their individual organisation to invest in solar systems to develop a community-owned renewable energy circular fund. And then the following year, another grant to generate working examples to support Junee not-for-profits to solve energy wastage. And then finally, in last year, they received funding for what we call a toolbox grant, so a collaborative community project for a feasibility study into a community battery installation. So that was their experience and how it translated for Junee Community Power through the program. So what are we, with all that in mind, that's a lot of information that I've given you and examples. So what is FRRR looking for in a partner community, I suppose? So ideally community that is ready, willing and able to fully participate in that whole suite of activities and elements that come along with the program. And as much as FRRR wants to work and with communities, and we've had some really great conversations and done our own research in the background, we also equally want communities to want to partner and be ready to go to work alongside FRRR on this journey. So that's a really important consideration. We're looking for communities that really are seeking to make an impact together and are ready to collaborate on kind of key issues that are important to them. We're keen to see a diversity of the not-for-profit sector and leaders engaged throughout the program to get sort of maximum community-wide impact. We've talked about shared priorities and opportunities, and a community road mapping process would really support that creating that vision and those goals. We've had a look at the community profile and the industry profile in your area, but really only just scratch the surface, and very keen to learn from you about what the key issues and interests are for your community, and noting that each community has different things going on by the nature of what the industry is doing, the community and such. And we've talked about this program being really aimed and targeting small to medium-sized not-for-profits. So we're looking for that there's evidence of activity across those smaller organisations, and that they're ready to lean in to the program as I've described. So very much, you guys are the experts, and we're looking to learn and hear from you about how you think the IRCF program could be of value for your community. Another video to share with you.
Junee's very, very good at standing up for one another, particularly when things get tough. So the purpose of the Junee Community Centre is to try and get the best possible outcome for our members of the community, our age, people living with disability and other vulnerable members.
from a council perspective especially, it's been great to establish the good connection with FRRR. Previously, I think everyone was sort of siloed and wanted to benefit individually. Now I think everyone's happy when we collaborate together, and as a team we can achieve the goals that we all want to achieve.
To have someone come in and see you from a completely different aspect and say, I've got faith in you. I believe when someone's got faith in you, you'll do anything.
I think the message for communities considering the IRCF program is do it. At the end of the day, you are investing in community for vibrancy and longevity, and it is absolutely worth it.
They say it so much better than I do, so I hope it's useful hearing those voices. And if those videos were a bit funky, we can share them around later as well. So in terms of next steps, and then we'll open it up to questions, but I just wanted to talk through with you a little bit here. So if your community is interested in the program, we encourage you to connect. There is an expression of interest process. We are very mindful of the time of year and that people have a lot of priorities on at the moment. So this is designed to be intentionally short. There's only 4 questions, and we're seeking to understand current priorities for your community and not-for-profit sector. We're inviting, ideas and themes, but we don't expect full project briefs. It's not about that. It's about just giving some more insights into your community. The timing is awkward with Christmas and New Year and the festive season, but we're really trying to get set up so that in the new year in 2025 we can really launch into this program with communities and get going. So that is, we're just trying to navigate around the festive season, and the expression of interest will help us understand and get ready for the next steps. We've invited a lead organisation to help facilitate and coordinate this process. That lead organisation can be any local not-for-profit in your community that has the capacity at the moment to just help the momentum and drive that expression of interest. They're not committing to anything down the track. It's just a mechanism to help FRRR understand if your community is interested and what value you think you can get out of the program. We only expect 1 expression of interest per community, but if for whatever reason it might make sense to develop a second one, then you're welcome to do that, and that's okay. But we don't expect more than 1. I guess ultimately thinking in the context that there would be 1 community roadmap for your community if it progressed into the program, and that the community roadmap can represent a range of themes and goals. So, understanding that you have a really diverse not-for-profit sector in your community with a range of different missions and purposes, and a community roadmap can really reflect a range of different things. We had a really great response in terms of registration from Portland community, which super exciting. If helpful, we could circulate the contact details if people were comfortable and that was going to be of value. We could send an email out after the session this afternoon inviting people to opt out. You may already be connected, and that's not necessary, but just thought I'd put it out there. So the expression of interest is due the 11th of December, not very far away, but hopefully by providing it sort of early, you've had a little chance to think about it. On the back of being able to review the expressions of interest, we'll then invite communities to attend some workshops. There'll be a half-day workshop in early February, so between the 3rd and the 14th of February next year, to almost have a bit of a mini community roadmap workshop, which will just give us a little bit more insight into your community and interest and readiness to kind of launch into the program. So we'll then be in a position to select 3 communities. We may invite more than 3 into that workshop opportunity. And if there were, and if that was the case, and there was a community that perhaps didn't progress into the broader program, we would be really listening and wanting to identify other opportunities that perhaps we could support in a lesser way. But, that might look like maybe we could, support a community roadmap workshop to have that asset to kind of help focus on future activities for your community. Or there might be a particular project that rises to the surface that we could support funding for to get that activated. So, we're really wanting the workshops, firstly, to be a valuable experience and a capacity building experience in itself. And then we'll be able to identify the 3 communities. And at this stage, we have the funding to support 3, and who knows what might happen into the future. So if there's any reason that those dates don't work, or, there's a date within that period that doesn't work, we'd love to hear about it. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to really thank you for your time and jumping in and interest in the program, and open it up for questions. Peter?
I have a hand up there, Joe.
Oh, hello. Hi, is that Anne?
Yeah, it is, Joe. How are you going?
I'm well. Oh, I've just lost you.
Muted.
Yeah.
It's all right. I've muted myself, I think. We're all having a bit of difficulty with this. Look, I was really interested in the community facilitator position because, as you know, there are 2 things. One, I think it's a brilliant idea, and to have a neutral person doing that role is actually amazing in working in communities. But if we are having difficulty, number one, in getting people who have what you would consider to be sufficient skills or capacity in that role, what support do you or does the program provide to, I guess, get someone up to speed if need be? Is there a support around that space? Because obviously that's a crucial role in working together with everyone. The community is very good at it, but even so, there's a lot of, it's a lot of skills involved in that position.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly, as I mentioned, normally that role is contracted through FRRR, and so the FRRR team is supportive of that person and is a direct connection to that facilitator. But I might bring in my wonderful colleague Carolyn, who is the program facilitator for some of our New South Wales communities. So she might be able to talk to that a little bit more from the experience up there.
Yep, that'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe. So the community facilitator, it's such a key role, Anne, and it's a really good question. Just to share, it is, I shared yesterday in one of these webinars that it's interesting that the community champions that come along quite often to the road mapping or even those information sessions, if this community goes through beyond the EOI process, quite often, and in 3 examples, we've actually recruited from that workshop, which is really interesting because they're the people that will turn up. So it's not necessarily, it's a broad skill set, absolutely, but we have accountants, architects, marketing specialists are 3 key ones that I work with at the moment that have all been in the facilitator role. So they have a broad skill set, but their deep connection and desire and passion is community. So it's really about that networking and bringing community together. So you'll be surprised how many people in your community you'll have that may step into that role. And absolutely, FRRR have a really good onboarding process. And because we've now engaged with, I think, 7 facilitators, we also have a lovely little process and some skills matrices and things like that. So definitely we'll be managing that process and leaning on community for support.
Yeah, and certainly there's lots of skills in the region that I think we could draw on. I'm not suggesting that, but it is a hard time to get any staff at the moment, and next year if we are successful. So it's just to be mindful that we may have to broaden the pool a bit. So what support's available? So thanks for answering. That's good. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. And I think it's, another great example of being able to build the capacity of a local person to lean in and step into that role. As a hospital, we miss out on funding due to being a government org. Does this allow us to participate? I would say that regional organisations or larger organisations particularly are really important stakeholders in this process. And there are opportunities for FRRR to fund things that are above and beyond the role of government. So there's that consideration in terms of FRRR being able to support charitable activities, but also in terms of the broader community engagement in the program. I think it's so important to have the voices of larger organisations as well. So I would really encourage that. So hopefully that's helpful. Carolyn, you might have something to add there. If you do, please jump in.
Yeah, just to echo what you said, Jo, around larger organisations bring a lot to the table, particularly in the road mapping process. And it's quite often when the smaller NFPs meet, they really do value the larger orgs, state government organisations like Headspace attending, even though they may or may not be directly able to receive funding, but they've definitely participated and been auspiced by little organisations are some examples. So there's definitely ways to make things happen. Yeah.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Oh, sorry, I won't be long. I was just interested. I'm from a community that's about 40 minutes outside of Portland and Hamilton. I just wondered whether FRRR had an opinion on which way I'd be better off leaning towards. Obviously sounds very interesting and want to try and value add where we can, but I guess being that we're not in either community per se, wasn't sure if there was an opinion on what would be better suited for us here in Casterton.
Yeah, that is such an interesting dilemma. I love it. But I wouldn't say it's a dilemma. I would just encourage you to connect with to lean into the community that you feel most connected to, that makes the most sense for you, that is the most accessible along those lines. And
so it doesn't make a difference what LGA we're in or anything like that. That doesn't matter per se.
No, I don't think so. We started our exploration of communities in terms of, inviting communities into this process by looking at LGAs, but, realistically, the lines that we draw on a map don't necessarily kind of apply to how communities feel and how they identify. So, noting that we don't know which communities yet, and whether Hamilton or Portland or both or whatever, we don't know, where it's going to land in terms of which communities progress into the program. So, that's yet to be determined. But I think, like I said at the beginning, it's around inviting communities to self-identify, where they feel that they're most connected.
Cool.
So
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
We'll close off there again, and a big thank you for your interest in the program and joining today. It's really lovely to see you all. Have a great rest of the day and good luck with the slide into Christmas and the end of the year.